Good morning, 600 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today's date, 9/12 of 2012. 9/12/2012. What do we have going on today? Well, I'm just showing the S&P chart right up here at that major resistance level at 1440, 1442. We have a two-day FOMC meeting that Mr. Bernanke is conducting today about QE3 and how that's going to play in the broader markets as we move forward. It's been very long awaited for 9/12 of 2012 to get here for this meeting. And basically everybody has high expectations that the Federal Reserve will come back in and do more quantitative easing. Is it a solution? No. However, the markets are going to feed on it. We're going to see if it's a sell the news or buy it. That means that they'll be talking all day today, and then they're going to come out with their decision as to what the Fed should or should not be doing. It is an election time of the year. One of the things, we had the German court that did not rule against the IMF and the ECB and how they, how their constitution works in Germany versus all of these bailout packages that are going on around the world. There is going to be some restrictions in that. We have a pre-market gap from this news up into resistance levels. We have a pre-market gap in the S&P futures. We have a pre-market gap in the NASDAQ 100 futures up 14 handles. We have a Dow futures that were up extremely high, and they kind of been all around. We have the Apple iPhone, which I'll talk in a different video about. Mr. Cook will be presenting that today. The thing that we really want to be focused on is what these names are going to do at the top end of the resistance level, how to trade an FOMC meeting on a 2-day, why this particular meeting at this particular calendar date of the year is probably one of the most important ones that the market and the broader professional community will be looking at. Once again, we will be looking at the intraday ranges at resistance on all key indexes and key stocks and their support levels. Once again, I will do some highlights on the CMG trade. Again, it hit our target the other day, $340. Amazon hit our target at $260 and pulled back nicely. So once again, FOMC meetings are going to have restricted intraday trade ranges on the first day of the meeting. The second day, tomorrow, when the decision would come out, which would be 2:15 Eastern time, is where we'll see the broader volatility pick up. And is there going to be any significant changes in the statement is going to be the clue. What does Mr. Ben do? Is he going to change his statement or not? And that's what the markets are going to be focused on. In order for this S&P 500 to continue its bull in this particular September cycle on September 12th, going into this meeting, is that I'm just showing a daily chart here. I talked about the major resistance levels. We've hit those targets. There is another target. Depending on what the FOMC does, if they bring the bulls off the sideline, I can say that the next target level here is going to get right back over here, and we're going to be looking at where, and I'm going to draw a trend line on the S&P, and I'm going to tell you right now that we're going to be looking at this horizontal line right here across this ridge. 1449 will go to where the top end of this bar that was on 1/2 of 2008 on the S&P. The upper end would be about 35 handles above those targets at resistance level, 1443, 1442. We could go up as high as 1470 because this is going to be the key area, this high bar right here on the S&P. And we're going to watch how this S&P 500, if they're using the financials in the beaten down commodity sector and some of these stocks that are out of favor, where technology, you would sell the winners and start buying the dogs in the energy sector, natural gas, commodity related names. Gold miners have acted well, silver's acted well. We had updated the SLV and AGQ. So basically, in order for us to break those resistance levels, the lagging stocks it's going to take the financials to do it. It's going to take the financial sector, bottom line, to get us up here. And they're going to have to come in and they're going to have to keep buying up those financials. And the thing about it is, you cannot have a new bull rally without them. It will not happen. And what's going to provide the support level and what is going to be a fueling factor to get this up here to 1470 handle, right up here where the financial crisis started, right in this area where my pointer is going to take some of these beaten down energy stocks and commodity related stocks, and that's going to be the CRX.X. And these names have got to come back into favor. They got to have that flavor. It's got to taste good. The energy sector, the DXE, it's going to have to play a bigger role. Some of the leaderships in here, Noble being one, EOG being another. Some of these other stocks that are in here that have been in severe bear trends. Same thing over here in the oil services. Right here. This oil services is going to have to play a role. Morgan Stanley Oil Services and oil services in general. One of the things that we're going to be looking at is this S&P Banking Index, the BIX. These are the names in that banking index. These names are going to have to outperform in order to take us much higher into that S&P 500. The KBW Banking Index, BKX, that's the symbol for the index. These names in here, some of the smaller regional banks, they're going to have to step up to the plate, and they're going to have to contribute to the rally outside of semiconductors, outside of internet stocks, outside of software stocks. And security broker dealers such as the Goldman Sachs, that's been on a rip the last 5 days. The JP Morgans of the world, the Morgan Stanleys, well, that's one there is a little bit, but this Goldman Sachs has to be a contributing factor. JP Morgan will have to be a contributing factor. And the broader S&P banking index, well, they're going to have to buy them up. And there's going to be certain ones in here, that KBW banking one right here. There's that Bank of America. Here's your JP Morgan. Here's your Northern Trust. Here's your State Street. Here's your Wells Fargo has ran and outdone most of them. But some of the smaller regional banks that are in the NASDAQ 100 and other areas of the market are going to have to outperform in order for the S&P to reach the targets. So we'll just make it clear, and I'm showing what it has to happen, and we're a little bit overbought in that S&P, but for us to reach these targets and break those resistance levels, that 1442 to 1449, but the 1470 up here would be our next major target should this bull rally continue. FOMC meeting is in play, 9/12. It's a 2-day meeting. It's one of the most important ones at the end of this calendar year for the election processes that are going on in the United States of America.